You know, it's kind of heartbreaking how many brilliant, game-changing ideas just fizzle out. And it's usually not because the idea was bad. Nope. It's because of one single, super frustrating roadblock. Today, we're going to unpack the blueprint for blowing right past that hurdle.
I bet you do. You've got that concept, right? The one that keeps you up at night, the solution you know the world needs. It feels electric, just buzzing with potential. And then, bam, you hit the wall. That giant looming question of how? How do I get the money, the team, the tech, the stuff I need to turn this little spark into a roaring fire? Honestly, this is the exact point where most people just give up. But what if I told you there was a proven blueprint for this? The source material we're digging into today literally promises to reveal the secret to mobilize resources, and that is exactly what we're about to do. All right, let's dive right into the core formula. The whole concept is called resource mobilization, and really, truly understanding this is what separates the dreamers from the people who actually get things done. So let's break this down a bit. The most important word on this slide, it's process. This isn't about getting lucky or just happening to know the right person. It is a strategic, step-by-step method for getting what you need to do a specific job so you can hit the goals you've already set. It's all about being incredibly intentional. And this slide, wow, it lays out that journey perfectly. It's such a clear path, right? You get the resource, you use these things called mechanisms to get it, you put it to work, and then finally, you achieve your goal. It's a simple, logical flow. Okay, so how does this process actually get started? Well, it's not something you do in a vacuum. This whole thing is really about a relationship, a dance between two key players. So on one side of the equation, you've got the entrepreneur. That's you, right? The visionary, the engine, the one out there looking for the fuel to get the work done. And on the other side, you have the resource provider. Think of them as the enabler, the person, the company, the institution that has what you need and, crucially, is willing to support your goal. Real success happens right there, in the connection between those two. So this is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you actually make that connection? How do you convince a provider to hand over a resource? This is where the source uses a really interesting word. It calls this bridge a mechanism. Now, pay close attention to the wording here. It doesn't say the mechanism. It says different mechanisms. And that distinction is absolutely critical. It means there's no one-size-fits-all answer, no magic bullet. The how is going to depend entirely on your specific situation. So what could these mechanisms be? Well, it could be that killer pitch deck you present to investors. It could be a perfectly written grant application. Maybe it's the trust you've built through years of strategic networking, or a viral crowdfunding campaign that captures everyone's imagination. It could even just be the good old-fashioned grit of bootstrapping through your first few sales. Your job, as the entrepreneur, is to figure out which tool is the right one for this job. Okay, this brings us to what might be the most important point of all. It is so easy to get obsessed with the chase, with just getting the resources. But we have to remember why we're doing it in the first place. The resource itself is not the prize. The immediate reason you get a resource is simply to implement the organization's work. Think about it like this. Resources are just fuel. They're meant to be burned. They exist for action, to hire that person, to buy those materials, to launch that marketing campaign. They're basically useless until you put them to work. And this is the final destination. Look at those two incredibly important words, predetermined. You have to know your goal before you even start asking for anything. That goal is your North Star. It's what tells you which resources you need, which provider to talk to, and which mechanism is going to work. The goal drives this entire process. So let's put this all together. Let's recap. What we've just unpacked here is a powerful, it's clear, and it's a totally actionable blueprint that you can start using to bring your own idea to life. And here it is, the whole secret in one single sentence. A successful entrepreneur gets a resource from a provider using a mechanism to achieve a goal. That's it. That is the fundamental loop of entrepreneurial success. It's a formula that you now have for your own vision. So, let's make this real for you, right here, right now. Forget about the 5-year plan for just a minute. Thinking about that brilliant idea of yours and that ultimate goal, what is the very first, most critical resource you need to get just one step closer? Your answer to that question, well, that's where your journey really begins.